These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God. God, what?
Well, happy Wednesday night, everyone, and welcome to the newest event in Aussie car racing. It is the new Formula Vee Championship. Now round 2. We started at Laguna Seca, where it was Cam Dance and Alex McKellar, the stars of the show. But what could happen here across the pond at Oulton Park? This is a track that is always feeding up very close racing, but then you bring these new iRacing Formula V's. No matter where they go, it's close racing. So what might happen in tonight's 2 races? We're here on SimSpeed TV to find out live. David Haynes and I'm joined by Reese Gardner. Reese, they are just wrapping up qualifying now, and with another bumper, absolutely stacked grid, I think qualifying is going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 37 drivers in the server here at the Oulton Park Foster's layout, which is the oldest layout of Oulton Park. Of course, it's been modified a couple of times over the years, as with most tracks around the world, but still retains its basic rectangular shape, and drafting certainly a big part of it. We've got a special guest with us tonight on the grid here. Real-life racing driver Chaz Mostert is on the starting grid, but we've got the first couple of rows here. Cameron Dance and Kirk Broadhurst getting on the front row. Really good stuff there. Dance and McKellar, of course, your main championship contenders. McKellar starts alongside John Schultz on row 2. Sean McKenzie and Mitch Dean start on row 3, with row 4, Lee Partridge and Nathan Verney in the 7th and 8th. Rounding out the top 10, Jason Gilholm and Alex John, with Stuart Crawford and Dennis Hancock starting 11th and 12th. Very close times, David.
Yeah, exactly. Always going to be really close in these equal machines around a pretty short lap like this. So then the next cars on the grid is Theo Taylor and Daniel Hederscheid. Aiden Schultz. There he is, Chaz Mostert, starting out of 16th. We saw him put in some great times in practice, so I wonder what could happen in the race there for Chaz. Jackie Chalmers and Mikey Harland are the next row, and then behind them is going to be Jeremy Bush, Ray Oliver, Michael Brennan, Nick Skariev, Michael Greed, Scott Harvey, and continuing through our really bumper hectic grid is Stafford Marsland, Ira Felberg, Rick Berger, Vic Bent-Veltzen, Leon Williams, Max Donnelly. And then some of the last cars is Callum Heinrich, Sean Carey, Paul Ward, Paul Jackson, Mick Taylor. No qualifying time then for Braden Martin. And I don't think he's alone in that necessarily. The off-track at the exit of turn 1, pretty ferocious here.
Absolutely. Oulton Park, of course, the off-tracks here are set according to the British Racing Drivers Club rules, which means that it's defined by the white line and absolutely nothing else. You cannot go 4 tyres beyond the white line. You can't even put 2 tyres beyond the curb in some places without getting an off-track. Turn 1 does have some runoff, but you've got to be very careful with how you go about it. That start area at Oulton Park, the Deer's Leap, the dip is going to be difficult on the standing start as well for drivers starting uphill, but revs are rising, David.
Indeed they are. Those flat VW engines are going to rev up for the first race of the evening, the 12-lap sprint. About 15 minutes it will be, and they are away for the start of that now. Pretty even starts up front, except for your third place man, John Schultz, already going backwards, now backwards into 5th. Good leap from Cam Dance and Kirk Broadhurst on the front row, but back there, something didn't quite go right for John Schultz. He's been leaped by a few cars. Top half of the field cleanly through turn 1, but then on the cold tyres, it's downhill into a difficult, twisting braking zone. This is one of the key overtaking opportunities as well. Drivers always keen to throw it down the inside. Does that end cleanly every time on lap 1? We've got a little spinner there already. Looks like Nathan Verney facing the wrong way, trying to get his car pointed correctly, but at the start like this, he's going to be right at the back of the field. 37 cars all streaming around, most of them pointing the right way.
Yeah, most of them indeed. There was a car spun there on the edge of the Foster's corner. That's Jeremy Bush in the 04, and it looks like he's got pretty big damage to the right front. Nathan Verney having trouble getting going as well, but we'll have a look at this battle here. Drawing alongside Sean McKenzie, it's Mitch Dean, and this is the battle here for fourth place. Dean going there into fourth, passing Mackenzie there. They got Lee Partridge for very close company behind them. Chaz Mostert has already made up 5 positions here on the first lap. He's up into 11th, and Mitch Dean making up 2 spots, and big movers including the likes of Paul Jackson and Mick Taylor from the very back. But lap 1 complete of 12. And Formula V here, you're really gentle on the brakes around a lot of these corners as we ride on board here with Chaz himself, and demonstrating the flat-out turn as they make for the braking zone into the tight Foster's corner. You've got to be very careful to avoid that curb on the inside. Take too much of it and you're going around.
Yeah, it's not just the engine from a Volkswagen Bug, it's the suspension bits too. Not really race tuned. You want to keep off those curbs, and that could be one of the reasons. It is stat for the top 3 at the front of the race. Cam Dance still holding on to that lead, but Kirk Broadhurst there in red and yellow and black in second, and Alex McKellar in third. Race win, first ever one last week. So our top 3 were starting to get away, but as they've battled like that, it's let Mitch Dean and Sean McKenzie and everyone else really stick with them. You can see now 2 laps complete, and well, it is still a bit of a train at the lead up front.
Indeed, looks like Lee Partridge has gone backwards after that good start for him, as the second lap is complete and move up the inside into turn 1. That's Alex John and Jason Gilholm. Gilholm taken to the runoff area and getting the run there. That would be worth a penalty in real life, but Alex John definitely losing out here to Chaz Mostert, who's continuing to make up positions here on the first lap. Up 7 now and into the top 9. Fantastic performance here from Chaz, who was showing some great pace in practice. Couldn't quite capitalize on it in qualifying. These Formula V cars are all about momentum, particularly up this top part of the circuit. You've got a double apex right-hander coming up, and you do not want to be on the outside for this. Well, Chaz Mostert could not get up the inside there, but also getting up the inside. A couple of other drivers there as Alex McKellar now. Front row seat battle to Kirk Broadhurst and Cam Dance, who are side by side into the final corner, and there's Broadhurst going for the lead.
Yeah, it looked like he almost had that move for the lead done the previous corner, but then there was still side by side coming to that last braking zone of the lap, and then down the inside, Kirk Broadhurst took the lead away, but what a slim lead it is. Here comes Alex McKellar having a look at Cam Dance as well for second, didn't come off. So here's Alex McKellar still just sitting in third, started from fourth and made some positions when his teammate, I think, of John Schultz didn't get away as hoped. To the right-hander, they all stream through once again. It looks like 7 cars for your top battle at the moment. Broadhurst, Dance, McKellar, Dean, McKenzie, Schultz, and Crawford. That's the 7 you see right there. Then comes a little bit of a break to Chaz Mostert in his own little no-man's land now. And behind that, 2 by 2, side by side for Alex John and Lee Partridge. And that is backing this little train up as well. The lead changes one more time. That run up the hill, so critical towards the double right-hander. It's let Dance back into the lead, and here's McKellar looking down the inside of Kirk Broadhurst.
Yeah, and he's gotten the move done there before they get to the braking zone. Up the inside goes Sean McKenzie on Mitch Dean. Dean holds the outside line, though, gets a slightly better exit. You see the number 29 of John Schultz there, who's trying to make up some more places. Remember, Schultz started in third place, so he's got quite the fight back to do. But this is a proper draft train here around Oulton Park. It's full throttle for the vast majority of the lap, and drivers taking to the runoff area and the exit of turn 1 to try and maintain any semblance of momentum here. As have a look at that, the back 3 in that battle, McKenzie, Schultz and Crawford now all together at Foster's corner. Right on board here as there's a big oversteer moment for John Schultz. He just got crossed up over the curb. You got to be careful there on the exit curb as well at Foster's corner. So they lost some ground there to the top 6.
He had it all under control until that outside tyre just touched the curb at the inopportune time. Side by side for the lead once again, but also drama's back here for Jackie Chalmers of Scotland, I'm led to believe. The lead though, Alex McKellar up front for the first time I can remember. It's been a Dance and Broadhurst show all day, but now it's Alex McKellar leading, Broadhurst to his inside, and Dance sandwiched in the middle with resurgent Mitch Dean and Sean McKenzie in picture as well. One more lap to get to the halfway point of this absolute sprint of a race one. No strategy, no pit stops needed here in race one. These guys are racing like this until the end.
Absolutely, and we are loving it here as just darting to the outside of Sean McKenzie now is Stuart Crawford, trying to go for that move as McKellar trying his best to keep everyone behind him here. Danced, makes contact with Mitch Dean and sends him around there at Foster's corner. Mitch Dean won't be happy with that one at all. It looked like very minor contact that just ballooned into a mammoth spin there for Mitch Dean, so he's managed to get going again. Fortunately for him, McKenzie and Schultz side by side there, with Schultz just backing off. He doesn't want to make it too wide through the double right-hander, as now Broadhurst and McKellar have broken away at the front. Cameron Dance lost some big time to them on that lap.
Yeah, precisely. We lost the driver that was in between second and Dance probably had to check up a little bit there as well. He's really fighting to catch up with these guys. And that moment from Broadhurst, coming over the crest of the right-hander, the rear got loose, big correction needed. It's hurt his momentum. Let McKellar get down the inside. But look, Cam Dance suddenly right back in the fight at the halfway point of this race. And yet, more action elsewhere. That's the final corner. We're seeing two cars trying to dust themselves off and get facing the right way and get back racing.
It's the 99 of Ray Oliver, who's had a bit of a problem there at the final corner here at Oulton Park. He had a move put on him there. And, straight into the back of him went the number 7. That's Mikey Harland from New Zealand. It's a big shame there. Just a little bit too late on the brakes. It's a very late braking point for that final corner. The lead is on once again, though, as we go back to live pictures. Alex McKellar up the inside of Kirk Broadhurst at the double right-hander. Broadhurst has to back out, and Cam Dance right on them once again.
In terms of horsepower, triple digits would be being very, very generous for these cars when they come up the hill. Whoever's in the lead loses their momentum, and the cars behind with that little bit of the slipstream really have the opportunity to close up. That's one of the places around the lap here where the car in second has the leg up over the car in first. And so that is why you see the lead change there so often. Chaz Mostert's had a little bit of a whoopsie-daisy in the final corner there, seeing him drop back a couple of positions, because until that point, he was basically the hardest charger in this race from the middle of the pack up towards the leaders. But these are our leaders: McKellar, Broadhurst, Cam Dance for the moment. And we're going to see out of this right-hander, this is what I'm talking about. You can get all the momentum in the world here, then immediately you're going uphill, and for the leader, it just saps their speed and their momentum. The replay for Chaz Mostert, racing with one of the top split TV cars, so I've got to assume Alex John, indeed it is. This is what happened through the double right-hander. They're watching the lead cars battle, and then Chaz looks like he's copped a hit on the eraser there.
Yeah, right into the back of Chaz Mostert went Alex John, and Mostert was immediately on the text chat, making his feelings known about that. He was not happy with that incident. We go back to live pictures to the lead. They're just completing lap 8 here. And Alex McKellar into the lead. Broadhurst maintaining second, Dance maintaining third. None of these guys want to make a move just yet, because as looks like Alex John has redressed that incident on Chaz Mostert, let him back by. So we'll see how they go towards the end. They're going to keep racing, but the leaders all together now. As I was going to say, none of these guys want to actually make a move yet, at least until the final lap, because they know how much momentum they're going to lose, and they might go right to the back of this train.
Yeah, exactly. Another casualty of the right-hander there, Daniel Hetterscheid. He's not happy with how he's been raced. Here's Broadhurst looking for the lead. Again, contact! Whoa! He did contact with McKellar, and then piling into that, I think, was someone else. Is it Dance? That is Dance. So our top 3 contenders piling into each other with still a couple of laps to go. Stuart Crawford threw into the lead of the race. Sean McKenzie in second. John Schultz in third. But a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact in these open wheelers. It can happen, and it's led to a messy incident when we had all of our 7 cars just in a blanket like that. Had some serious vibration from the front left tyre, and he's not the only driver with a bit of damage. That almost looks like he's going to pull over and tow for McKellar. So our top two in the championship tangled up, losing big points in this race. for the lead, Crawford, McKenzie, and John Schultz.
That is an incredible turn of events here at Oulton Park. It just looked like going into the double right-hander. McKellar banged wheels with Broadhurst, and Broadhurst went airborne. We'll get a replay of that post-race, but for the moment, we're checking out Mr. Stuart Crawford, who's now got the race lead in his hands, but Sean McKenzie will look to try and capitalise. Look at the strength of the draft there up the hill. Fantastic racing we're seeing between these guys, and the top three here now broken away. Mitch Dean maintaining fourth place, but for how long? He's got Lee Partridge and Jason Gilholm right behind him. You see them in the background here as going for the lead is Sean McKenzie up the inside of Stuart Crawford and into the lead. They only have 2 laps to go this time by, and they are going to battle to the end. Question is, will they fall back into the pursuing pack?
Crawford came from 11th on the grid to be battling for the lead here, which is something impressive in such a short, just 15-minute race. Oh, all the way off the track there for McKenzie. He's going to fall all the way back to third. What happened? Did he have a bit of a swapper in the middle of the corner there and have to correct? These cars seem like they are pretty savable when the rear gets loose, but the rear does want to get loose very often, and it's not the fastest way to drive them. Here's Partridge and Dean, the 4th and 5th, with Gilholm right in behind them. You're going to see up the hill here towards the bridge how much momentum the lead car loses. Oh, puffs of smoke there. Isn't changing from 3rd to 4th here. Classic old Volkswagen, leaving plenty of oil under it, not just in it.
Absolutely, as the leaders coming together there at the double right-hander up the inside goes Lee Partridge on Mitch Dean, but he catches the curb, loses a little bit of momentum. We're about to go to the final lap here, and McKenzie is fighting back. What happened on the last lap was he did get a little crossed up through turn 1, it seems, and then Crawford got into the back of him on the exit, holding the outside. Mitch Dean trying desperately to hold on to that 4th place. There might be a bit of traffic for the leaders on the final lap here at Oulton Park. I can't wait to see who comes away on top here. Crawford with a little bit more momentum through turn 1, but he cannot capitalise on it. McKenzie is in big trouble here. McKenzie from 5th, Crawford from 11th, John Schultz back into 3rd place. Who's going to come away with it? It's
real blink and you will miss it stuff here. At Laguna Seca, we were looking at 1 minute 40 lap times. Here it's 1 minute 10, so traffic very possible in this race and also in the next race, but I don't see any up the front of our top 3. McKenzie in the lead. Crawford, big run up the hill as to be expected. John Schultz hoping to pick up something from this. 2 braking zones to go. Down the inside comes Stuart Crawford. Can he track all the way out on Sean McKenzie? I think he can. They're all going to have the biggest look at the final corner. Who's going to be bravest on the brakes and keep it all together? Schultz wants to make it 3 wide at the end here. Nose in front still for Crawford. Has a good line, shoots the gap. He's got the momentum coming off the final corner. Can he hold on to it until the line? I think he can. And for second, it's going to be Sean McKenzie. John Schultz in third. From 11th on the grid, Stuart Crawford takes the win.
Yeah, very close finish there further back in the pack as we still have finishers coming across the line here. Through the final corner, Scott Harvey, can he get the run here? It's going to be everything versus Ira Felberg. They're 3 wide coming down the start-finish straight, but it looks like Harvey was just able to get it there on Felberg. Vic Benfelsen nearly had a chance there. Have a look at the gap between Harvey and Felberg, just 100th of a second. Love the racing in these Formula V's, but certainly not loving their time were the championship contenders and Kirk Broadhurst. They... looks like almost all of them not coming away there with much of a good result. Dance retiring, McKellar retiring, and Broadhurst only managing to recover to 12th.
Yeah, indeed. So these are the results. Now we've had every driver cross the line. Stuart Crawford played them like a fiddle on the final lap to come away with the win. One of the biggest leading margins we've seen all season long at 1/3 of a second. And then, of course, the podium there completed Sean McKenzie, John Schultz. Great battle between those 3. They kept their nose clean, and they have been richly rewarded with some points in race 1. And the rest of the finishers goes Lee Partridge Jason Gilholm, Mitch Dean, Chaz Mostert then back up into 7th, 9 positions gained in this race. And then Alex John in 8th, Theo Taylor 9th, and Michael Brennan, your top 10.
Finishing in 11th was Daniel Hederscheid. Kirk Broadhurst, of course, recovering to finish 12th. Max Donnelly, the hardest charger in the field there, making up 17 positions to finish in 13th. Stafford Marsland and Scott Harvey ran out the top 15 with that very close gap back to Ira Felberg and Vic Bentvilsen. Paul Jackson in 18th. Jackie Chalmers of Scotland comes home in 19th place with Paul Ward in the 32 rounding out the top 20.
Indeed. Rest of our field as they finished: Callum Heinrich, Michael Greed, Mick Taylor, Mikey Harland, and Leon Williams. The last car scored on the lead lap. 1 lap down for Jeremy Bush, and then it's cars that needed pit stops. There were cars that retired late. Cam Dance, Ray Oliver, Alex McKellar, Sean Carey, and in fact quite a few casualties of a race 1 here at Oulton Park. Nathan Verney, Rick Berger, Matthew Joy, Dennis Hancock, Nick Stariev, Aiden Schultz, and of course Braden Martin early on in that one as well. So no prisoners taken at Oulton Park in race 1. Race 2 isn't far away, and it's longer with a pit stop. Is that going to mean some calmer heads than this incident that we saw in the race? We said we'd get the replay later. There's Alex McKellar leading. There's Cam Dance in 3rd, and Kirk Broadhurst looking for the lead. Some tyres tangle, and it spells catastrophe for the 2 drivers who are leading this championship after round 1.
Indeed, they're going to have to make some big recoveries from that one. But you see McKellar on the outside of Broadhurst, and Broadhurst just comes over and sends Alex McKellar flying, both of them getting airborne. Cameron Dance had absolutely nowhere to go there, went straight into McKellar, and then you see Stuart Crawford in the number 54 just sailing through to take the lead, and he, along with Mackenzie and Schultz running on track there, were the protagonists in the top 3 battle. Here is the onboard from Sean Mackenzie. So you see just how close this was as the leaders come together. You'll see Broadhurst just go across and bang wheels with McKellar. They come together, and just like that, oh, the track opens up for all of these guys, but not by much. Mackenzie was very lucky to get away with that.
And I swear Crawford must have just nicked Cam Dance there as well, but no damage to Crawford. Of course, he continued on to take the win, but he was an inch away from being in this one as well, an inch away from disaster. Here's from the roll hoop camera on Stuart Crawford. Does it touch Cam Dance? Does it not? It doesn't matter, because either way, he was a very, very lucky boy. And that's how these kind of crazy sprint races go, is consistent results so important. Stuart Crawford gets handed a big gift, and he doesn't look it in the mouth. He says thank you, carries on, and ends up taking the big points from race 1. Fantastic stuff at Oulton Park in OZICAR Formula V. We're going to take a break here on SimSpeed TV, and when we come back, it's race 2. And if last week was anything to go by, race 2 is just as exciting. So stick around for that one shortly at Oulton Park.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year, but the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker, especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs, any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong, where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro, so that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Welcome back to OZICAR Formula Vee at Oulton Park, round 2 of this exciting new championship with an exciting new car. Boy, we're delighted to be covering it here on SimSpeed. There is not enough minutes in these races to cover the kind of action that we are having with these giant grids, but luckily for us, race 2 coming up does give us a tiny bit more room to catch our breath and to watch the amazing Formula Vee action. Here's what the points were after round 1 at Laguna Seca last week. Coming into this round, Alex McKellar in first, Cam Dance in second, equal points with Martin Turner and Alex John, Lee Partridge, Jason Gilholm, Sean McKenzie, Ray Oliver, Ira Felberg, and crucially, Stuart Crawford in the top 10. Well, McKellar and Dance not taking great points away from race 1. Could see this get all jumbled up, and of course, Stuart Crawford taking that win in race 1, round 2 here, should certainly consider himself in position for a good championship result if he can keep it up and if he can keep scoring consistently when others can't. It's time to take a look at qualifying for race 2 though, and this, once again, the shootout format race.
Indeed, every driver only gets 1 lap over the next 5 minutes to get a run in here, and it's just going to be lonesome cars out on track, so it's all about how much momentum you can carry through the corners. And I'd say that in terms of heavy braking zones, there's only really 2 on this circuit and only 4 real corners as we take a look at Mr. Alex McKellar going around the circuit on his warm-up lap. First of those braking zones, big braking zones right there at Foster's Corner. And then the next one is at the final corner. The turns in between those ones, turn 1 and the double apex right-hander at the top of the hill, you only need to have just a light brush of the brakes, if not just a straight-up lift of the throttle for this corner here that you see Cameron Dance going through. You got to try and maintain as much pace as you can. We got Cameron on the Zoom feed, and it's a shame we couldn't get his reaction last race when that top 3 bust-up happened, but Cameron starting his lap here. We're going to ride on board for this one, and my goodness, I love this Oulton Park circuit. Across the start-finish line he goes into turn 1. You want to try and delay your turn in as much as you can, get the apex there when the track juts out in the middle, and Cam maximised that exit as best he could there. He might be losing a little bit of pace in a straight line down there as he goes through the dip flat out through this left-hander, and then on the brakes, not as hard as you think for Foster's Corner. Try and maintain as much momentum as you can because you've got another long flat out section here through the right-hander, and then up the hill towards the double apex where we saw that lead crash happen, David.
Exactly, and just 3rd and 4th gear for these cars. 3rd gear in the slower stuff, 4th gear in the faster stuff. Not many gear changes around here, but you do take note when they happen as you see him try to carry all the speed with 4th gear through that double right-hander. The track drops away a little bit at the exit, and then it's bumpy towards the braking zone at the final corner here. He does grab the downshift into 3rd before tipping it in. Late apex because the track also drops away on the exit of the final corner here, and then it is flat out towards the line. Do you hold it in 3rd, or do you grab the shift to 4th? I think he holds it in 3rd.
Yeah, he does, but he hasn't been able to capitalise. That's only P6 provisionally for Cameron Dance. Mikey Harland has run the quickest time so far, but have a look at Mitch Dean. He goes right to the top there on a 1 minute 10.844. That's pretty fantastic time there from the number 31. Leon Williams now starting his qualifying lap in the number 198. As we have more times come in, Theo Taylor making it 23rd. Alex McKellar puts it up into 2nd. That's going to be good there versus Cameron Dance, who's now fallen back into 12th place.
And I think we're going to see no qualifying time registered for Chaz Mostert with this shootout format. It's like qualifying on a street circuit. I hate to say risk versus reward, but if you go all out, all to the limit on that one qualifying lap, you do risk throwing it away and therefore starting somewhere right up the back of the pack. For Chaz Mostert, it looks like that is what is going to happen, which is punishment in any race, but with 30 plus cars, that really could give you a headache for the upcoming 30-minute race. About Alex John, he looks like he's on a pretty hot lap, maybe going 9.5 tenths on this one, just to try to make sure he gets that top half of the field start. He can keep out of any trouble on the first lap as well. That's half of what this qualifying is about.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to try and maximize your grid position, but not take too much and throw your lap away. It's an 11.645 there for Alex John. And looks like he's managed to make it roughly in the midfield there. No time, actually, for Alex John. If that time had registered, then it would have been around 14th, where Cameron Dance is. But he got an off track on that one. What about Jackie Chalmers in the 3-2-1 machine? Gets into the final corner, takes the curb on the inside, and a nice clean exit. Let's see if this lap ends up counting.
Checkered flag is about to be thrown regardless as well, so Jackie Chalmers is lucky to cross the line in time, and the time is going to register in 15th. Not many other drivers out there that are able to get to the checkered flag in time, as Barney says that is qualifying done. And Mitch Dean has taken pole position before race 2. The pit stop race, 1 tyre change going to be required in the compulsory pit stop window today. And we're going to line up on the grid, and it's going to look like this. Front row, Mitch Dean and Kirk Broadhurst. Then Alex McKellar, John Schultz, Mikey Harland, and Lee Partridge. Behind that, Sean McKenzie, Daniel Hederscheid, and Stuart Crawford, your race 1 winner there, starting out of 9th alongside Nathan Verney, Stafford Marsland, Aidan Schultz for the top 12. Then we have Ray Oliver, Cam Dance starting there a bit deeper in the field, just in front of Jackie Chalmers, Michael Greed, Dennis Hancock, and Ira Felberg for the about first half of the grid.
Jeremy Bush is going to make it 19th, the last car to set a 1:11 lap time. Callum Heinrich rounds out the top 20. Paul Jackson and Paul Ward, the 2 Pauls there, sharing the 11th row, with Mick Taylor and Leon Williams behind them. Michael Brennan, Scott Harvey, Sean Carey, and Theo Taylor, the last cars to set times there. And we have a raft of drivers who were not able to get a valid lap time in. Alex John, Braden Martin rounding out the top 30. Jason Gilholm and Chaz Mostert starting on the 16th row, with Max Donnelly, Rick Berger, Nick Skariev, Vic Bentvelsen, and Matthew Joy, the last of our 37 cars here. So with just 30 seconds to go until the gridding period is over, might be a little bit less than that, but now the drivers get to do it all over again. And in terms of strategy, David, we saw at Laguna Seca that the longer you went into the race, the better before taking your pit stop.
Yeah, part of that boiled down to the traffic as well, and around this very short club layout of Foster's at Oulton Park, I have to imagine traffic is going to be an even more strong consideration. Time is about to run out, though, and we are going to get racing. 24 laps, approximately half an hour, 30 minutes or so for race 2 at Oulton Park in OZICAR Formula Vee. Good launch from the pole sitter, Mitch Dean. A couple drivers not getting away as they wanted in the middle of the pack, and it jumbled up coming towards turn 1. 111 cars almost coming together there in the background as well. Track limits being well respected so far in this longer race. And right as I say that, we've got some drivers coming together in the background. Sean Carey, who is he tangled with in the buzzing B? Nick Skariev, that's right. I remember that from a week ago now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, that's unfortunate for those guys, but The 111 cars continuing to fight there as there's more cars off in the background at Foster's. Who's that? Dennis Hancock, who's having to make his way back onto the circuit there at the very back. Got another car trying to make their way through as well. Ira Felberg, our series administrator, looks to have quite a bit of damage there on the front left, and he's going to struggle to keep it out of the wall here. He's going to have to tow back to the pits there. It's a big shame for him, but the race continues. Up the front, Kirk Broadhurst has made his way to the lead. Mitch Dean gives him a little tap in the rear as they come into the final corner. And John Schultz up the inside of Lee Partridge for third. Alex McKellar, our championship contender, making his way forward as Ray Oliver cannot make it to the end of the first lap there. We've already got cars coming into the pits, and I presume Stafford Marsland, it doesn't look like he has damage, does Stafford, but first car to pit there at the end of lap 1. He's joined by Alex John and Jason Gilholm.
But interestingly, not as many as we've seen in some other Aussie car races. Chaz Mostert into the back of, who was that? The drivers side by side in front of him checked each other up through turn 1, and he has gone right into the back of Scott Harvey and that other driver. Here's the pit stops just being finished. Take about 20 seconds for these cars. We'll grab the replay here. Scott Harvey was one of them. Who was the other driver?
Heinrich.
Here?
It was Callum Heinrich. Harvey went up the inside of Heinrich at turn 1, but they locked wheels on the exit, and Chaz Mostert, right behind them, had nowhere to go. Just went right into the back of him.
Yeah, indeed. So a pit stop required in this race for the compulsory tyre change, but maybe some drivers are going to be forcing that pit stop earlier. I mean, yeah, you can see that is a very wide Formula V squared that was in front of him that he had to avoid. Those two drivers, as you can see, the cars had kind of locked together awkwardly. More drivers coming to pit lane. Here's John Schultz and Nathan Verney. I wonder if going just one lap longer will work out for these drivers.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, but remember, Cameron Dance ended up winning, and Alex McKellar too was up the inside. Stuart Crawford having a big old go there at Cameron Dance, who's trying to work his way forward after a poor qualifying. Kirk Broadhurst has fallen all the way back into 4th place there, as you can see Lee Partridge now up into 3rd. But these... I think Cam Dance showed that you can really go long into these races and take advantage. Pitting too early might send you at a bit of a disadvantage as Dance gets up the inside of Mikey Harland and makes his way up into 6th. And he's not too far from this lead battle now. If these guys continue battling as they are, then Dance is going to be right on them as the number 7 sweeping around the outside, trying to get some form of advantage. More side-by-side running there through the final corner for Michael Greed and Aidan Schultz.
I have to think that the Formula V pit stops being longer than the Skip Barber pit stops extends that sort of the pit window, the pit delta, to the point where for the leaders it's harder for them to pit early in the race and not end up really deep in the pack amongst all the cars that haven't pitted, and that feeds on itself, where the drivers then can all want to go longer, and the traffic becomes even more difficult if you do pit early. Factor that in with just a really short lap here around Foster's. We've got some great battles amongst the drivers who haven't pitted yet. So we're watching Harland and Dance and Hetterscheid and race 1 winner Crawford. Dance all over the place, all crossed up. He's battling a bunch of teammates here as well, and they are bullying him, it would appear.
Yeah, indeed. Cameron trying his best to hold it round the outside as Daniel Hetterscheid's now made his way to the front of this pack in the 111 eSports machine. To the outside goes Mikey Harlan, trying to maintain the line in the final corner. Hetterscheid, though, with the run, and Cam Dance with an even better run. He's going to go for it here into turn 1, I think.
The lead as well. We've got 2 by 2 by 2 everywhere you look in the top 10 cars, as McKellar and Mitch Dean touch for the lead. Lee Partridge is here in 3rd, had nowhere to go with all of his momentum because he is boxed in, like trying to change lanes on the motorway, finding that there's trucks and other cars here, there, and everywhere. McKellar somehow is going to hold on to this lead, and Partridge is going to sneak through for 2nd. But Dance, he wasn't able to get by Harland or Hetterscheid there, and they all fall back in single file. Then that's going to change coming up the hill as well. Everywhere in our top 10, this is Formula V action.
At its best, no less. This is what I really love to see. the Draft Fest at Oulton Park. It's almost like an oval. Not quite. I always get a bit annoyed when people call a high-speed road circuit practically an oval, because not all the turns are in the same direction. As for the lead, up the inside goes Lee Partridge on Alex McKellar. Kirk Broadhurst and Mitch Dean were battling hard there as well. They had to back out of it. And McKellar has lost some momentum there through the final corner as they come around to start lap 6 of 24. They'll be at a quarter race distance at the end here as there's a pitter in the top 6. It looks like that is Daniel Hederscheid going for a stop. Let's see how he can capitalize on that as these guys continue to battle.
And talking about the battling for everyone in the top 10, John Schultz, all the way back in 22nd at the moment, is the leading of the cars who've cleared their compulsory pit stop, and he was the fastest car out on track last lap. So the traffic not affecting him greatly at the moment. In fact, he's got less traffic than the leaders have got battling each other like this at the moment. We could see Schultz or Daniel Hederscheid make this early pit stop work, only if the top 10 keep going side by side at every conceivable opportunity. John Schultz now up to 20th as he makes some moves and some other drivers pit. He's going to be eagerly watching the gap between him and the leaders, Lee Partridge, Alex McKellar, side by side. Mitch Dean and Kirk Broadhurst, side by side. Sean McKenzie in 5th, just watching it all kick off.
2 by 2 out of turn whatever the final corner is, as Lee Partridge is going to lead the way across the line here once again at the end of lap 6. They go into single file again. Another car coming into the pits behind. Mikey Harland deciding enough is enough. I'm going to go for my stop now, and there's some big battles going on right next to him. Chaz Mostert side by side with Michael Greed, and Mostert having to back out into turn 1, but he gets the over-under just about. He might be able to draw alongside coming into Foster's corner. Mostert, remember, started in 32nd, and he has made up all of these positions on merit throughout the race. Aside from the incident earlier, Greed later on the brakes into Foster's, but overshoots the corner, so that allows Chaz on through.
Yeah, indeed. Decent moves. 22 positions gained so far for Chaz Mostert, and he is just 10 seconds off the lead. We can easily see plus or minus 5 seconds happening from a bit of luck in the pit stops. Do the tyres come off and back on cleanly, or do they end up taking a little bit longer? So he could still catch some of these cars up front and then get a good run through the pit stop if luck is on his side tonight. This is the lead, though. Partridge starting to catch just an itty bit of traffic there that's going to stay to the right of circuit. So McKellar and Dean and everyone else in line is going to want to stay in line towards turn 1 this time, just to get around the outside and hopefully clear that traffic. But it might drive a wedge between the top 3 and Kirk Broadhurst and Sean McKenzie.
Indeed, there was Sean Carey in that lapped car letting them go there as the top 3 are locked together. Coming into Foster's for the 8th time this race. A big puff of smoke from Lee Partridge on the downshift, as that's too much curb for our pole sitter Mitch Dean. He is around, and the 04 joining him there of, I think that's Daniel Hederscheid. No, sorry, I'm going to correct myself on that. That's Jeremy Bush, who's making his way out on circuit once again, but Mitch Dean will be absolutely kicking himself for that one. Just turned in a little bit too early and paid the price. Now Chaz Mostert has got the mother of all draft trains up ahead of him. He's into the top 10, and he could potentially make life difficult for the top 6.
Absolutely, he could. You can see in some of the shots there is a bit of damage on the nose for Chaz from the contact we saw earlier. It's not slowing him down at all. It's really suspension damage you've got to look out for in these cars. But now the road a little bit blocked in front of him towards the final corner. It does get past pardon me, lapper of Jeremy Bush. Oh, and Mitch Dean, another mistake, wide and off the road. And so Chaz Mostert now up into 9th, trying to hunt down Brennan and Schultz in 7th and 8th up the road.
And they're battling very hard in the opening turns as the top 3 making their way through. Once again, Alex McKellar's made his way back up into 2nd place, and Kirk Broadhurst now in contention for victory once again. He's managed to make his way past and drop Sean McKenzie as McKellar pulls out for a little hint of a move at Lee Partridge, but cannot take advantage coming into the double right-hander here. Just the penultimate corner of the lap, and The track meanders down this final straight. Oulton Park used to be the external road for a military camp during World War II, so it's quite the old school road racing circuit here
A similar history
in
to
the UK.
Zandvoort then.
Yeah, military history and racetracks definitely seem to be mixing really well, particularly in the UK. Callum Heinrich going for the pit stop. I mean, the UK is just full of circuits like that. As into the pits comes Chaz Mostert. He'll want to try and get a little bit of that damage repaired, as well as take his 2 front tyres there.
Oh,
he's overshot his box.
First pit stop in OZICAR Formula Vee for Chaz Mostert. He's overshot the box a little bit. Because the front tyres going up on the jacks, though, so that's all going smoothly so far. That's the kind of thing, though, that'll cost you 1 or 2 seconds, and Chaz Mostert has cost him a little bit. And then the total tyre change once he's in the box, looking a little longer than some of the others I've seen. He's still being held there in the box. Was he speeding too? Oh, he's changing rear tyres.
Oh no, he only needed to take the 2 fronts. So poor Chaz, he's going to be falling down the order there. As for the lead, Lee Partridge having to yield to Alex McKellar. So McKellar back into the top position now, where he was in race 1, or was fighting for in race 1 before that big crash. But it's a good run from Lee Partridge down the inside into turn 1. He's going to snatch the lead right back, and McKellar just has to back out slightly. Very careful to avoid contactors. Have a look at the run from Kirk Broadhurst. He has to back out, just lift off the throttle, make sure that he's not getting too up in the business of the top 2, and I hinted a move on McKellar into Foster's, but he's not going to get it done. Partridge, a little bit of understeer through Foster's, which is going to cost him a little bit of a straight line run.
Riding on board, most expensive, most technologically advanced piece of this car, that dashboard there, telling us they're going from 3rd to 4th right as they start going uphill and nowhere to go. A little bit of a nose-to-tail bump, I think. Kirk Broadhurst to Alex McKellar. They made contact in race 1, made contact again in race 2, but I don't think it was quite as severe this time. Now it's our top 11 cars out on track who haven't pitted. Almost everyone else made that compulsory pit stop. Broadhurst wants second. He's almost going to get to first. And what's critical is the gap between these leaders and John Schultz has been decreasing. It was 32 seconds. Now it's 30 and a half. John Schultz is not getting the screen time, but he's doing some great laps compared to these battling leaders who aren't quite doing themselves some favors, because the number of battling leaders has increased out to 5 cars, with Mackenzie and Dance joining the party. This is where the strategy doesn't work so well for John Schultz, though, is when he's got to get past someone who hasn't pitted, like Mick Taylor here. He does it cleanly, but that's still not perfect. Looking at the gaps between him and the leader, he was half a second or so faster on the last lap, it would seem. We're going to get that updated again in a second, I would think, and we'll see how that lap compared to Lee Partridge.
3/10 faster. Still
around 30 and a half seconds between him and the leaders. It's going to be close. He's definitely looking at a podium, I would think.
Oh yeah, for sure. You got to remember that the pit stop transit time, the complete time for going through the pits, was 32.4 seconds for John Schultz. So he's that would have resulted in, I think, about, I don't know, 25 seconds or thereabouts, maybe a little bit less for the total time lost. So he's certainly in contention here. He might be on the back of the top 6 when everyone else comes in for their stops. We're past half race distance now, so John Schultz definitely one to watch here, but we should also turn our attention back to the leaders, because Lee Partridge, he had a gap on the battling quartet behind him, but now they've regained their time, and Partridge is starting to look like he's in a bit of trouble again. Kirk Broadhurst just 2/10 behind. Alex McKellar still in 3rd. Cameron Dance now has latched on to the back of this train, and these guys are going to encounter some traffic. There's Nick Skariev in the buzzing Hornet. He's going to maintain his speed here as the leaders come up to him, but we'll see if he makes life difficult for these guys. Dance now can smell a potential bit of victory here. Skariev pulls over and lets them all go as Partridge snatches a little bit of draft off him. Every single bit of slipstream counts around this circuit, and they've got more to come with Paul Ward and Callum Heinrich up ahead.
Yeah, indeed. They haven't pitted, these leaders we're looking at, and a lot of the cars they're starting to catch have pitted. Maybe they were, 20, 30 seconds behind the lead on merit. Then they've taken their 30-second pit stop, and you see how very easily some mid-pack and pretty good drivers who've already taken their pit stop end up almost falling a lap behind to the leaders who haven't pit yet. So that is where the traffic really starts to get intense for all of our leading 5 here. The Partridge has navigated it pretty cleanly so far, but it only takes one belligerent car ignoring some blue flags to cause a problem for you. Stuart Crawford, that's a pretty good time in the box, 16.9. The worst I've seen out there for a 2 tyre change is about 20.1 seconds. Anything considerably shorter than 20 seconds seems like a pretty damn good pit stop for a 2 tyre change.
Yeah, and it seems like Nick Skariev has the quickest pit stop of anybody out there. 13.6 seconds stopped in the box, so he's definitely got the best pit crew in OZICAR right now.
Chad Moster's pit crew is pretty good, but he told them to change twice as many tyres as necessary, so hence 35.6 seconds. You halve that, 17.5, not a bad pit stop if it was only the front 2. Hopefully he sticks with us, and that's something we iron out for future races going forward in OZICAR Formula V, and maybe at the end of this race we'll talk about the schedule. Don't have time now because it's really coming to a point in the last about third here where John Schultz has now lost a second compared to Partridge and Broadhurst at the lead. Real swings and roundabouts for him. He claws the lead back. He claws it back and almost got within 30 seconds, and then it starts to extend back out again. More from the top 10 pitting though. Rick Berger also on the lane now, and these are cars that are getting out of the way of John Schultz now. He's taken the pain early. Now everyone who pits is giving him free positions.
Oh, positions lost for Stuart Crawford though, our race 1 winner. He's had a spin at the final corner. We'll check out the Virtual Racing School replay for that as I'm looking at the lead. It's side by side once again, but we will catch what happened here to Stuart Crawford. Was this contact with the car behind? He gets into the final corner, but no, it looks like he just got crossed up in the middle of the turn and ultimately off the circuit. So, lead. Looks like Kirk Broadhurst just got to the lead, and he has come in for his stop. So the first of our real top 6 here to blink and go for the stop. Be interesting
and look,
to see
you
how
couldn't
this one
see it
works
from
out.
the angle. You couldn't see it from the angle we were watching at, but for Broadhurst there, really tentative heading towards the pit lane speed limit. Probably gave away 2 or 3 seconds there. That could be so critical amongst the top 5, among who stands on the podium and who takes good points here. You not only got to be clean into your box, but also you've got to have practiced that pit entry with the bit of a difficult chicane before you come up on the pit lane speed limit. You've got to attack the chicane on pit entry if you're going to make time. He's clearly going to lose out to John Schultz. Someone's staying well off the track for John Schultz, who's now being scored in 5th. The car's being scored in the lead right now. McKellar, Partridge, Dance, Sean McKenzie. We're right on board with Sean McKenzie, and he leaves this respectful 1 car length between himself and those guys leading once again. I think he's learned something from the contact he saw in race 1.
Yeah, Mackenzie's the only one of our leaders who hasn't really gotten stuck into it, as off goes Cameron Dance to go into the pit lane. Yeah, Mackenzie just biding his time here. I think he knows that it's definitely not optimal to try and battle too hard with the cars around you, as McKellar and Partridge don't listen to me at all and go side by side through turn 1. So McKellar loses the lead to Lee Partridge once again. I'll keep an eye on Cameron Dance in the pit lane. It looks like a 16.8 second stop for him as he comes towards the end of the pit lane.
Partridge all over the curb, all over the grass, all over the curb again. He's going to lose out the lead. He's going to lose out to Sean McKenzie as well, and he just dove in there too deep, pushed it out wide, and almost, well, these things look like a toboggan at times, and he really rode across that curb like Jamaica does have a bobsled team.
John Schultz, meanwhile, has pipped Cameron Dance, as Dance later pitting, coming out of the lane and a little bit squirrely there on the fresh tyres coming into these turns. Cameron really aggressive with his inputs, as that's a spinner behind him. That is Sean Carey. Yeah, he's gone for a little bit of an adventure there, but Cameron Dance losing out there to John Schultz. Looks like it's the inverse case here at Oulton Park to Laguna Seca, as coming into the pits is Lee Partridge, our former leader. It seems like the earlier you pit, the better.
There's one thing these cars have got that a lot of other single-seater racing cars don't, and that's a great turning circle by courtesy of having that sort of road car suspension and steering rack and all of those bits. Seems like you can recover them pretty easily with the amount of steering lock you do have available, that you'd rather be pointing forwards at all times, like McKellar, Sean McKenzie are out front, like John Schultz and Cam Dance are here, because they have rejoined right together for what could still be eventually the race lead.
Yeah, well, Schultz has gotten well used to those tyres now, but Cameron Dance with the fresher rubber there getting by him. Schultz actually lifting off and deciding to let Cameron Dance go. He knows that Dance is faster, and maybe Schultz can actually use Dance to get himself into the lead draft battle. All he's got to do is stay within about a second of Cam, and he'll be able to do that. Coming up to the final corner, Alex McKellar and Sean McKenzie, they leave it on the table, and they're avoiding pitting until the very last moment. Lee Partridge is, I think, a little bit behind Cam Dance and John Schultz here. Yeah, he is quite a ways behind. Remember, he had that spin as the battle for 12th continues. Stuart Crawford, Mr. Harland here, Mikey Harland, up the inside through the double right-hander, and Crawford having to go super wide. He's let Mitch Dean through as well. Dean, one of our former race win contenders, as Daniel Hederscheid wants to get the nose in as well. And he goes 2 for 1 coming into the braking zone. Mitch Dean saw him coming there.
Yep, had the space. Now, this looks like where Sean McKenzie is battling with Alex McKellar for the lead, but they're only 28.5 seconds up the road from Dance and Schultz, and we saw that 30 seconds wasn't enough to be clear in some of the earlier pit stops. It's not looking like the race pace is what they need between McKellar and McKenzie here, though now it's just the two of them. Might be easier to work together, might be easier to ratchet up the pace a little bit, and there is that 6 seconds between Dance and Schultz and Kirk Broadhurst that they could slot into and still pull away a podium position. You saw Schultz give up that position to Cam Dance, and it just reminded me last week of some of the drivers who were telling us that their fuel was almost low at the end of the 30-minute race.
Well, with the amount of on-throttle time you spend here at Oulton Park, you probably have a little bit more fuel usage all up, as we check back in here with our race leaders coming across the line. No, that's Schultz and Dance, sorry, my apologies. They're in 3rd and 4th. The only other car, aside from our two leaders, not to have pitted is Theo Taylor. He's currently in 7th place at the moment, just holding off Nathan Verney, but on board here with Schultz. Remember, lowest of 26th after his pit stop, and actually the highest position that he has attained in this race is the one he's currently in right now. So this could be a great improvement here for John Schultz if he manages to work this out towards the end. There's only 5 laps to go, though, and time is rapidly running out, as it looks like. Sean McKenzie and Alex McKellar trading positions. Reason? Alex McKellar in the pit lane.
Yeah, we see Sean McKenzie now on his lonesome in the lead of the race. There's only a couple laps left before the end of that compulsory pit stop window anyway. I'd say probably 2 laps away from the end of the window, even if he wanted to push that as long as he can. What kind of pace has McKenzie got all by himself? Some of the other battles, now that we've got almost everyone having made their pit stop, are really, really heating up as well. Out of the pit lane is going to come McKellar. Schultz and Dance sweep around the outside, and at the moment it's looking like net 3rd place for McKellar. It depends what McKenzie can do, though.
Yeah, certainly does. We'll keep an eye out on Sean McKenzie. He's coming up to the end of his lap now, as Kirk Broadhurst as well, trying to make his way back into the top 4, but he is quite a ways behind there. Here is McKenzie, final turn for him. Does he go for the pits this time round? It looks like he will not. So he's really pushing it here. He wants to try and get some running in clear air here, but I don't think that's going to give him much of an advantage. It's such a draft-centric track.
Yeah, last lap for Mackenzie in 11.2 versus Cam Dance with a 10.7. Alex McKellar, I need to cross the line to give us an updated time to know what the difference looks like there. As you can see, some of the sort of lap traffic that some have to deal with. Here is McKellar, still just a tantalizing couple of seconds behind the cars that are going to be the net lead there of Dance and Schultz. As he crosses the line for McKellar, no, 38.8, that's still his out lap. And that's out of the lap.
Yeah, way out of bounds there as Schultz and Dance continue to battle for what should be the effective race lead. 27 seconds at the line was the gap from Mackenzie to Dance, so it's probably going to be really close on the pit out here for Sean Mackenzie. So Dance maintaining his position as finally Mackenzie goes for the pit lane and the little chicane that you navigate on the way into the pits. There we go, at the very top of first gear here for Mr. Mackenzie, revving the bejesus out of it. And into the box he comes. This is crunch time. Dance needs to maximize every turn in, every apex, every acceleration point. Is this going to work out for him? Mackenzie's still up on the jacks in the pits. The front end in the air. And he just gets going there as they go on by. So Cameron Dance will go into the lead here of OZICAR Formula V at Oulton Park. What about Alex McKellar? Oh, it looks like he's managed to beat Mackenzie there. And Broadhurst might just get him too.
Yeah, so that'll be fourth now for Sean Mackenzie, but definitely vulnerable with 2 laps to go to Broadhurst and Partridge and some others who've got temperature in their tyres. Cam Dance, though, a little vulnerable to John Schultz now with 2 to go. Schultz bringing the pressure back up after just riding along for 5 or 6 laps, and he's showing the nose to get down the inside of the double right-hander now. We are seeing the lead battle start to really pick up with that traffic we thought the leaders were going to have at the end of this longer race.
Oh, Dance just caught the curb there at the first apex of the double right-hander. Lost a tiny bit of momentum there, managed to recover well. Heinrich stays out of the way there. And the next bit of traffic for these guys is Leon Williams down in 26th position. And going to come around now to start the final lap. If John Schultz wants to make a move, he has to make it in the last couple of corners here. Now he's going to get the draft on versus Cam Dance. Dance gets a little bit crossed up in turn 1 and around he goes and he makes contact there with Schultz. They both come together. They both got damage. Dance loses a wheel.
My goodness, early contact on the final lap. Dance trying to tripod that thing around. John Schultz jumping all around, jitters and vibrations through that car. Neither of them can turn left. Can neither of them turn right? And here comes the battle for what's going to be the lead. John Schultz threw into the lead. Alex McKellar sticking with him, and it's not going to be Dance. It's not going to be Schultz. Can it be McKellar? He is... what a gift for him, and he's trying to stretch away with just a couple corners to go. McKellar could take another win in OZICAR Formula V, and it wouldn't be really through any fault of John Schultz there. Cam Dance just too loose in turn 1. The podium is then also going to be Broadhurst and Mackenzie and Lee Partridge as they've picked off those struggling, wounded cars. Dance really trying to limp that thing home for any points he can get his hands on. But for McKellar, horrible race 1. He's going to come for redemption and another win in race 2. Alex McKellar wins the feature race in OZICAR Formula V.
Oh, what an incredible finish there. Cameron Dance has gone straight on at the final corner. We're seeing drivers go through right now. Aidan Schultz, Daniel Hederscheid, and Mitch Dean here, almost making it 3 wide across the line. And it looks like Aidan Schultz is going to win that battle for 7th place. He was at the back of that pack on the final lap and managed to make it up. But man, that's a big world of hurt for Cameron Dance. He's not come away with good points finishes in either of the races tonight, but Alex McKellar getting a really good haul of points there with the win in the feature race, making up for race 1. As we check out the replay here, Cameron Dance going off at the double right-hander, and we're going to keep going back here because we've got to see what happened between Dance and Schultz. David, take it away.
Well, we're going to see that the white flag has been like a red flag to a bull for Cam Dance. He is pushing for all he is worth at the start of the very final lap. There's the white flag in the background, but what goes wrong in turn one? No grass on the outside. To the inside, he hits one of the anti-cut curbs on the inside, toboggans this really low car, and then there's nowhere for Schultz to go. The two of them collide, and goodbye Cam Dance's right front wheel, which goes to lean against the Armco there or something. Final lap, trying to bring it around. Dance still ended up finishing in 11th, but he clips that because he can't turn left on the way around. Oh my goodness, John Schultz still ended up getting 6th, limping that thing around. The onboard from Schultz is going to tell us if he had any warning or any time to avoid this. Traffic to the inside, Cam Dance trying to get all he can of turn one, just catches a bump. And even with some evasive action for Schultz there, he couldn't get all the way around. That front left tyre. Take this man to the medical centre because he's still going to be shaking.
Yeah. God, his spine will be in really bad shape, but it looked like for Dance...
He almost collided again there.
Yeah, with Dance getting into the wall, Schultz did very well to have it be too big of a hit, but... yeah, for Dance, it just looked like a little bit of a flick of oversteer on the entry into turn one, and then, you know, he tried correcting it, obviously, but it was a bit of an overcorrection, and it ended up fishtailing, and God, what a bumpy ride for John Schultz there on the final lap, but we got some results to go through here.
My goodness, do we? And it really sets up an interesting remaining couple of rounds in this championship because everyone we've seen able to take a race win has also had some poor results here and there. It's going to come down to anyone who can just consistently finish in the top 5 in these crazy grids and survive the carnage. Alex McKellar takes another win to now be our winningest driver with 2 against his name. And the podium completed by Kirk Broadhurst and Sean McKenzie, who came from 7th on the grid for that podium. That's Lee Partridge, Nathan Verney from 10th on the grid, John Schultz, Aiden Schultz, no relation there. And then Daniel Hederscheid 8th, Mitch Dean 9th, and Alex John gets 10th from 29th on the grid.
Cameron Dance would ultimately cross the line in 11th on 3 wheels after having the win in his lap at the start of the final lap. Stuart Crawford coming home in 12th. Mikey Harland could not capitalise on a 5th place start, has to settle for 13th. Now we get some really big gainers. Michael Brennan up into 14th from 25th. And Chaz Mostert, well, he ended up taking twice as many tyres as he needed to at the stop, but he still rounds out the top 15 at the end of his Aussie car debut. Dennis Hancock in 16th with Max Donnelly, Jackie Chalmers, Rick Berger, and Theo Taylor making up 8 positions to round out the top 20.
Twice as many laps, more strategy, and almost as many cars finish on the lead lap still, with Nick Scarriev managing to stay on the lead lap in the safety stripes in 21st, ahead of Paul Jackson, Paul Ward, and Vic Bent Veltson finishes 24th, still on the lead lap. The cars a lap down at the end of proceedings at Oulton Park. Stafford Marsland, Leon Williams, Michael Greed, Matthew Joy, Jason Gilholm, and Sean Carey. And then to bring us home was Callum Heinrich, Ray Oliver, Jeremy Bush, and then we're pretty much looking at retirements from here with Mick Taylor, Ira Felberg, Scott Harvey, and a double retirement, I think, for Braden Martin, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looked like Martin didn't even take to the start in either race there. So he was in the server, but ultimately we had 36 cars competing at the end of it. So now it's time for some driver interviews. I reckon the first one we should go to is, I believe, the driver we're talking to at the moment is...
Sean McKenzie?
Is Sean McKenzie. Yeah, 3rd place here in race 2, Sean. Congratulations. Looking like quite the active race out there, but you were hanging back for the most part in those battles, and I guess there was a little bit more of a mental edge to that racing.
Yeah, it was good fun. I was happy just to chill behind the main guys, see what happened.
Yeah, indeed. And ultimately coming home with a podium finish there in race 2. But certainly the strategy came into it as well. You were one of the cars to pit towards the very end. And what was your thinking behind that? Did you think that from Laguna Seca, where it seemed like pitting later was better, you try and carry it into Oulton Park, or was there something else behind it?
Yeah, I just watched the race at Laguna and thought that going long was the way to go. So I went short at Laguna and didn't really work out too good. So I wanted to go long this race, and yeah, ended up doing it. Worked out all right.
Well, indeed, a podium for you in the second race tonight. So ultimately, I think that sets you up really well for some good points battles coming into the next couple of rounds. How do you think you're going to go at the next couple of rounds?
God knows in these things, it's pretty tight racing, so anything can really happen. I think I've been pretty lucky to stay out of trouble so far, so hopefully that keeps going, and we'll see.
We'll see indeed. Before we let you go, Sean, anyone that you'd like to thank from your garage?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Auto Obsessed Wraps. If anyone in Brisbane needs to get their car wrapped, go down and see them. They're the boys to see. They'll look after you well. And well, my mate's pub down the Little Big House. Anyone else in Brisbane, go have a drink down there. Great place. You won't be sad that you've gone there. It's really good down there.
Well, next time I'm in Brisbane, I'll make sure to swing by. That's Sean McKenzie there, third place in race 2. And
I'll book us a table, Reese.
Oh, good. I really like that. Next time I'm in Brisbane, indeed.
They do trivia. We do so well. Between the two of us, the amount of stupid things we know.
Oh, absolutely. It's a date. Let's do it. But either way, it looks like we've got our race 2 winner here in the box with us, Alex McKellar.
Yeah, welcome once again. Race 1, though, I've got to wind back to that. I mean, a huge accident late in the race to just blow the championship wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. Evening, David, Reese, Jay. Look, yeah, that was pretty deflating there. The racing was pretty close, pretty good. 50-50 on that one, you know. It happens on the internet and with that sort of close racing. But yeah, I was deflated at the end of it, and then to have a Bradbury-esque run in the second race sort of picked the spirits up in the end.
Always better to end on that high note, but we've just seen race after race after race here that anyone's game to win some of these races. We've got, 7-car, 10-car battle packs till very deep into these races, and your clean air pace versus your racecraft. I don't think of any car where it's two more entirely separate disciplines than in this Formula V.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to have to breed a new style of tactics. I think that was really evident tonight. I tossed up whether to go in with Cam, because typically his pace is a smidge better than mine. But then I thought clear air, it depends on what he comes out in. Because you look at the difference in times. When there was 4 or 5 of us together, we were running 112s, and then in clear air low 11s. So and then you got to balance the balance of the car when you come out on fresh tyres. So look, I think people are really going to have to sit down and think about how they race, and it'll either continue to have that exciting mix of battling throughout the field, or it might even settle down to be a long freight train, depending on how people want to race it and work out their tactics. Really interesting to think about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you were championship leader coming into this round. Not quite sure how it is all going to shake out after those chaotic 2 races. But what about fuel in the long race today? No dramas at Oulton Park?
No, it wasn't. I learned my lesson from the skips last week when I ran close to running dry and just added an extra litre in that I thought I needed and didn't even get a warning. So the litre increments in the setups of these cars really helps, gives you a bit more flexibility without carrying the extra load. So I'm going for comfort rather than out-and-out speed at this stage.
Well, the only thing that's predictable in this racing is that it's going to be unpredictable, and I would have imagined it was only by about halfway around on that last lap you thought the win could potentially be yours. So who would you like to thank?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, thanks to Ira and the crew for putting on a great series. The racing's tough to beat here, and sort of draws me away from officials, I can tell you. My teammate AJ, he had another rough one like me, although he's right up there in the championship. We're looking to grab the teams as well. So, looking forward to that, and your good selves putting a great broadcast that I'm once again looking forward to watching back later tonight.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you Wednesday night next week.
Thanks, Jed. See you then.
Yeah, there you have it. DNF Race 1 to be the winner in Race 2. This is Cam Dance. Not quite a DNF in Race 1 and not quite a DNF in Race 2.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like we have one more driver in the booth with us. It's second place in Race 2, Kirk Broadhurst in the magnificent red, yellow, black paint job. Welcome, Kirk. It was a pretty eventful night for you.
Yeah. Hey, guys. It was a lot of fun. It was. The first race, the second race made up for the first race, didn't it? Your first race, we were going really well. And I think we were just a little too close. And I was, trying to take the line but not give too much room, and you touch wheels, and in these cars that's often the end of it. But yeah, the second race, the pace was good. I pitted a lot earlier than the guys I was with, and I didn't really understand how that played out. I just seemed to lose so much time by doing that, so I need to kind of go back and figure out if that's the right strategy.
Yeah, it seems like from the 2 rounds we've run so far, strategy is completely different every single race. At Laguna, it was running longer into the race was better. Here at Oulton Park, it seemed like pitting earlier was better. I think largely to do with the sheer amount of drafting that was going on around this place. And from your perspective, obviously that incident with Alex McKellar coming into the double right-hander in race 1, maybe a little bit of a consequence of the comparatively high speeds that you're reaching in these cars around this circuit. Also the fact that the track's really narrow too. It can really make it difficult to try and get a move done into those high-speed corners.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they're not fast cars by iRacing standards, but you're going pretty quick, and that corner's a little blind as you go in. You just kind of float through and try and get the apex, and a couple cars, and there's cars behind. It's all pretty frantic, and it felt like every lap we were changing the lead. So yeah, I just call that a racing incident. It was just a little too close, and that happens.
Yeah, indeed it does. But either way, with recovery to a second place finish in race 2, thanks to that incident up at the front there for Cam Dance and John Schultz, it's still a pretty good haul of points for you tonight, which you can hopefully carry forward into future rounds. The next round is Tsukuba Circuit, the 2000 short layout, and that's going to be a completely different kettle of fish entirely to this kind of track.
Yeah, I've driven this car on that track, and it's the difference between this one and Laguna Seca is almost a 2-minute lap at Laguna Seca and about a 1-minute lap. So the cars are just densely packed around, and at Tsukuba it's going to be even more so. And there's probably fewer kind of clear overtaking opportunities because there's not any of those sweeping corners there. Really, a lot of hard braking. So if we just need to keep it clean, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I think the thing about the drafting and the right strategy, it kind of depends on how much drafting there's going to be available. So it's going to be interesting at Tsukuba.
Certainly is. We look forward to watching that race next week, and we certainly look forward to hopefully chatting with you again, Mr. Broadhurst. Before we let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to? I look forward to chatting with you too. Just my family, very supportive of everything that everything that we do, and helping me make time to pursue this hobby of mine. So just my family, and love them lots. Hello to Kirk's family if they are tuning in here on SimSpeed TV. Your boy did well tonight in race 2. So That I think brings to an end proceedings for tonight, David. We're going to gear up for Tsukuba next week.
Yeah, and if the back of my envelope is correct, Kirk Broadhurst actually ought to be our round winner after finishing on the podium twice. So congratulations to him. May that form potentially continue in our 6th round championship. Somehow, we started a week ago, but already a third of our racing is done. So we head off to Tsukuba next week in Japan. Then we stay there for Okayama Short, then Lime Rock Park and Oulton Park with the slightly longer layout will complete our season. All free content, all mirroring the official series as well. So a great compliment to get as much value out of your practicing as you possibly could. I do believe not too late to join. So check out the OZICAR Discord or the website ozicar.net, or even on Facebook as well. From us here on SimSpeed TV, it has once again been a delight to cover all of this action for OZICAR Formula Vee, brought to you by Simfinity, the Locked On iRacing podcast, prestige trophy badge and engraving, 24/7 race control. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube, do make sure to subscribe and give us a follow on Twitch, because coming up in not too long, just a couple of minutes, more racing action on SimSpeed for your Wednesday night. That's all from OZICAR Formula Vee though. We'll see you next week.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!